These dudes despise each other, and their battles will be legendary. Or rather, they already have been. From the Finneval Plains and the hauntings of Nakari to the forests of Athel Loren and the Curse of Cain, these two have battled for centuries. Their souls intertwined, their fates etched in stone. But Tyrion, heir of Anarion, and Malekith, blood of Anarion, are at it again. And this time, they're battling for the Witchwood, a nasty green ectoplasmic blob that surely spells doom for somebody or something. In the black corner are the Goths of Nagaroth, heavy metal, big swords, executioners, blades of the Blood Queen, and rampaging avalanche of Cold One knights in their employ. And in the blue corner are the shining pretenders of Ulthuan, every bit the paragons of knightly virtue, but holding within them the same darkness that sundered this race millennia before. The Elven Civil War never ended. We've got a new chapter to write here, so let's get it poppin' like Orville Redenbacher and take a look at the map. Similar vibes to the Alpine or Sakura Ridge map from Shogun 2 days. And actually, I think Alpine Ridge is the only map from previous games that ever made it into the Warhammer trilogy. But with the high ground and choke point fighting the crest of that hill, heavy infantry will be at a premium here. Which is why Malekith the Witch King has a themed army from Ganeth and is going full regalia with the murder party. He's on foot, so he can have his long-awaited duel with Tyrion. Soulstealer and Bladewind supported by a Death Hag and her Chill Blade, imbuing a slow and melee attack debuff to all nearby enemies. Blades of the Blood Queen, simply put, are one of the scariest infantry blenders in the setting, but so often they are not worth their money at all because they get exploded by spells and charged by high mass units with impunity. On a map like this, though, they may be able to put in some serious work. 2 Witch Elves, 2 more Executioners, 2 Cold Ones, and the Dread Knights of the Ebon Claw. It's full heavy metal rush to the top of that hill. And on the flip side, High Elves had much the same idea. Heavy metal, Swordmasters, White Lions, a few Vanguard Rangers, and the Keepers of the Flame Phoenix Guard, supported by a Lore Master of Hoeth. Spirit Leech, Harmonic Convergence, and Earthblood, with the Cloak of Spell Resistance, and of course, the Elf of the Hour, the Avatar of Cain, Anarion Reborn, Tyrion, Defender of Ulthuan, wielding Sunfang. He has a distinct advantage in mano-a-mano combat with the Witch King, but of course doesn't have massive words of might and magic to employ on a whim, so besides Sunfang, he can't really reach out and touch things at range in the way that Bladewind and Soulstealer can for Malekith. And speaking of the Witch King, he is right at the top of the hill now, in front of the Blades of the Blood Queen, which of course will be giving him that Guardian Aura, 20% physical resistance, and 2 more Executioners on the flanks. They're going to be really tough to displace from the top of this hill. Swordmasters and White Lions can do it. They're going to need to put some work in for sure, and Harmonic Convergence will actually be really important if they want to win those trades. High Elves are the more balanced force overall, but Murderous Prowess gives Dark Elves a slight leg up when it comes to a clash of big old blades. Malekith, shall we call him Eternity King, will strike first blood, first onto the breach to clog this hilltop with the High Elf dead. And this is why both lords are on foot this battle. Awesome sync kills. However, they are insanely buggy on Malekith. A second Malekith literally falls out of his own body while the dude he's supposed to be decapitating does the same thing. The victim stays fully intact, and a second head and torso spawns out of the original and bounces away. This was actually a problem years and years ago in the Warhammer 2 days. Apparently never got fixed. I think I did report it, and I definitely had it in some videos. Hilarious, but also annoying. I would like to see that actually work properly, because that's a really cool animation if the dude was, like, you know, getting bisected in a proper manner. Still, Malekith and the Chill Blade, backed up by the Blades of the Blood Queen, are just scything their way through that first Swordmaster unit. That wasn't even a fair fight at all. Witch Elves on this side are holding down Rangers, White Lions, and Swordmasters of Hoeth, backed up by a Cold One Knight charge. Spirit Leech going down on the Knights of the Ebon Claw, which is a great target for that particular spell. And over on the right side, Cold One Knights are backing up against the White Lions, but it's a Harmonic Convergence, which will give them 60-60 on melee attack and melee defense. Should allow them to hold out on that flank, pretty much isolated, at least until that spell has run its course. Witch Elves have imbibed their witch brew, and they are rampaging right now. Swordmasters should make short work of them. Knights of the Ebon Claw, if they manage to get a flanking charge in here, could possibly turn the tide, as a couple Swordmasters getting tossed up into the air. But yeah, this is going to be a brutal fight for the Witch Elves. It's not something they can take on in a 1v1 mano-a-mano situation. They're naked femme fatales. They are not going to handle the massive Zweihanders and Swordmasters particularly well, and their bonus versus infantry, AP, and frankly ridiculous stats with martial prowess is just going to be way too much for them. But they are buying time. Time for the Noglier to feast on flesh, and the Executioners to buzzsaw their way through the easier targets anyway. And now it's Tyrion's time to shine. One of the finest duelists in the setting, physically unblemished and the greatest elven champion of an age. While his twin brother Teclis was physically cursed by Cain, god of murder, Tyrion was mentally, emotionally compromised. And that bloodlust, while certainly aiding him in moments like this one, can get him into trouble as well. Ain't no way Dread Spears or Executioners are standing in his way, though. He's got a date with the Wedge King. He's going to be styling on fools all along his merry way. Murderous prowess has popped for the Dark Elves as the Keepers of the Flame Phoenix Guard move into melee with Malekith, the Chillblade Death Hag, and the Blades of the Blood Queen. They may end up regretting that. Tyrion is just popping off right now, though. Sunfang is ripping and tearing. Dude, those animations are so smooth and so sick. Why I love sync kills, why I want them in Dawn of War, why I want them in Total War. They always add so much flair to the combat, make it quite the spectacle. Harmonic Convergence has kept those White Lions in the fight much longer than they otherwise would have been able to stand. Executioners are on their last legs on that side, but Dark Elves are looking very strong at the top of this hill, backed up by a Soul Stealer, and the Keepers of the Flame are just getting destroyed. They should not have committed into melee with the Blades of the Blood Queen. If they were used anywhere else to defend against the Knights of the Ebon Claw, the Cold One Knights, they would have been fantastic, but they need some kind of support if they're going to try to engage Executioners, especially the Blades of the Blood Queen, which, as I said, are just incredible for scything their way through elite armored infantry. So yeah, that's a big loss for the High Elves there. Keepers of the Flame are not long for this world. Tyrion is showing no signs of slowing down here, though. Dread Spears are about to crumble, and then we'll be getting the duel we've been looking for all this time. And it's fitting, because the one character in Warhammer Fantasy who most resembles the Dark Lord, Darth Vader, is operating in a mini Death Star at the crest of this hill, challenging all comers, and with his elite bodyguard, basically decapitating anyone who dares approach. High Elves successfully traded or won on both flanks, but with the Noglier, the Cold One Knights, they're relatively unscathed and represent a major late game issue without the Phoenix Guard to fend them off. Azor went late on the cav here, just 2 Illyrian Reaver Archers, so they're going to need an X Factor to dislodge the Druchii from the Green Orb, and that may have to come from Tyrion just running through Malekith in their duel. Reaver Archers are great as body blockers and for harassing even armored troops. Over time they'll whittle through them, but here come the Cold One Knights. They're going to chase them off, and yeah, Illyrian Reaver Archers cannot stay in the grind. Not with Cold Ones. It's not going to work at all. Chillblade from the Death Hag has honestly gotten insane value this game. Just melee attack debuff and a slow. So anything that breaks away from the Blades of Blood Queen is going to be slowed down, which means the Executioners can catch up to them and prevent them from returning by just killing them, murdering them, executing them as they attempt to flee. But yeah, that melee attack debuff, the Keepers of the Flame, to the White Lions and the Swordmasters of Hoeth has been brutal. And so far, the High Elves have had no answers. Malekith continues to reap his bloody harvest alongside his femme fatale Death Hag. So White Lions are fully surrounding the Eternity King now, but the Executioners are rallying to their lord and should be able to cut their way through. Tyrion is making his way over from the left flank, and their duel is imminent, but not before a bunch of White Lions are relieved of their craniums. Mercy is not in the Dark Elf lexicon, and honestly, since the Sundering, there hasn't been a whole lot of mercy on the High Elf side either. Especially from old Nagarite, baby. Althanar and his boys, yeah, they like to nail Dark Elves to cliffs. Big charge from the Cold One Knights on the High Elf left flank, pushing all the way through into the Illyrian Reaver Archers, who wisely choose to flee. Lordmaster of Hoeth out on that side. Would actually like to see him alongside Tyrion right now. Probably needed to help deal with the Death Hag and Malekith. Would be cool to get both of them getting a duel here. Keepers of the Flame are still holding on. Remember, when they are killed, they explode. So even when they get decapitated, they will still leave some damage behind and occasionally kill models in that manner. I don't think it's crazy amount of damage, but it's still cool. Or rather, super hot fire. But yeah, here we go. They're repositioning now. It is time. Tyrion, Malekith about to go at it while the Executioners finish off the Swordmasters of Hoeth out on this side. The battle is a foregone conclusion at this point. Dark Elves are going to take it. But can Tyrion at least strike the head off the snake before it all is said and done? And a big Sunfang ripping through. That's going to hit a lot of stuff. Probably do a lot of damage there. And the synced duels between Heir of Anarion and the Blood of Anarion, the Witch King, and the Defender of Ulthuan. Pretty cool. Malekith has a slight leg up so far, at least in terms of the animations. I don't even think this is actually possible for Malekith to win in a pure 1v1, as Tyrion lands a huge overhand strike. Feint and Repost gives him like 90-90, which is obviously an insane MAMD value. And then he also gets the huge burst heal from Heart of Avalorn if Malekith manages to get him low. But of course, Malekith is a sorcerer. He's got sorcery to employ when things get bad. He's got that in his repertoire. So Word of Pain to lower melee attack of Tyrion by like 44. Then he's got Soul Stealer to burst heal himself up back to maybe not full HP, but to help turn the tide a little bit and deal damage to Tyrion. So he can hold out. Interesting bug here too, you might notice here, Malekith is actually internally decapitated. Actually, it's not even internal, it's very much external. Whenever he takes any damage on foot, he literally becomes decapitated. You can see his kind of naked neck. Very red and angry, and his head becomes like slightly off-center. Yeah, that's another melee bug with the Malekith on foot. So, CA, if you're watching this, which you're definitely not, would be really cool. I have reported it, by the way, but would be really cool if, you know, his head functioned properly and his animations functioned properly. Footlords are super cool in this game, dude. I want to bring them more often just because the animations are really cool, but when they're that buggy, which is not true for most lords, honestly. Most Footlords don't really have any bug sync kill animations at this point. I can't actually think of too many bug sync kills in general, other than them not firing off, which has obviously been an issue off and on with this game throughout the trilogy, throughout its life cycle. But yeah, it'd be nice to get those things fixed. Still, really cool to see them duel, and I love these flavorful battles. Thank you to Zach Bisane for joining me in this one. Blades of the Blood Queen and the Ganeth Executioners popped off this game. They just slide their way through the Swordmasters, White Lions, and the Phoenix Guard. If a bit more emphasis was put on the harmonic convergence going towards the Swordmasters to help them deal with the Executioners and winning the infantry fight, and the Phoenix Guard being held in reserve to ward off the cavalry in the late game, High Elves might have been able to take that one. Would have certainly been a closer finish. But really enjoyable battle nonetheless. Very cinematic. Hope y'all enjoyed. Malekith is like, please help me end my suffering. Existence is pain. Life is pain. Eternity is pain. Why am I decapitated and walking around still? This is insane. Yeah. And I'll see you all in the next one. Any Pride, signing out for now. Have a good one, guys.